Greetings, everybody, and welcome back to Wolfinia. This is episode 287 of my Minecraft survival series, and we have been making good progress here on the crown as of late, but I think we're going to step away from the crown for this episode. You see, there's just a lot of other stuff I've been wanting to do here around the city, and that list just keeps growing and growing and growing, so I do want to go ahead and try to shorten that list by a little bit today. Now, you might remember not too long ago, we began a firehouse build here in the outer districts. Now, the interior of it is still on the list, but that's not what we're focused on. The water tower right here is also on the list. Now, this water tower is done, however, there is another water tower over here in the business district that I would like to update, and I think using that design, we are going to make some renovations to this guy right here. And when I say renovations, basically what I mean is we're going to tear this thing down completely, and then we're going to rebuild it using that new design or something similar to it. So basically, the theme for this episode is going to be updating old builds, making them new again, making them better, making general improvements, stuff like that. And we're going to start with this guy right here. So at this point, I think what we're going to do is go ahead and call the drone on over here, put on a little bit of music, and get started. Welcome back, everybody. So at this point, we do have a new water tower here in the business district of Wolfinia. I think it actually works pretty well here despite being a new design surrounded by a bunch of older builds. Let's get a better vantage point so we can actually see it. There we go. I actually kind of like it. I think it fits in with this area pretty nicely. And it's also an improvement over the old one we had here, which also, just by the way, allowed villagers to get in here and kind of make the water all dirty with their muddy feet. But now there's no way they can really get in along the sides, but I guess over here they could still get in, like if they were to hop up here and then just go, they can still get into this little section right here, but as long as they land on the sides, they can easily get back out. I guess the main issue is if they decide to jump in the water, then they might have a little bit of trouble. So y'all should just not do that, and then we'll be good. Another thing I'm thinking about updating is over here in the farm district, because we do have sniffers now in our world, including this guy right here, who is the baby of the group, who is no longer a baby, who appears to be stuck in a tree. Go on, get out of there. Get out of there. You go have fun and feel free to wander. And you also, mister. You can hop on out of there as well. Feel free to wander, go have fun. So sniffers, we have sniffers now. And I was thinking that since we have sniffers over here in the farm district, might be nice to update a section of the farm district so they can continue to dig as they're currently doing, providing us with these torch flower seeds and the pitcher pods. And I was thinking that maybe this area would be a good area to kind of update and allow us to grow torch flower seeds and pitcher pods. But we do have another option. If we make our way over here, you can see we have a lot of empty space right here that needs to be used for something, right? And I was thinking that since the torch flower seeds and pitcher pods do provide us with dyes, much like our flowers do over on this side, and this flower farm is actually not operational at this point, but it still has the illusion of being operational, we could make a little manual torch, flower seed, and pitcher pod farm on the far end over there, much in the same design as this, so we can keep the design cohesive as we go around the perimeter. But there are a couple issues with that. Number one, as you can see, there are no entrances to this outer area. And number two, if we did allow our sniffers to come out here, which I most likely would, they run the risk of wandering off the edge into the water here, and we don't want that either. So walls would also be needed, which means we have some options as far as our next update goes. Now, before I started filming, I was pretty sure I was going to update this area and have the farm be over here, because that would fit with this episode, right? However, as we've talked, I've kind of convinced myself to do something with the outer district instead. Now, since putting a farm out here would be a new project, we're not going to worry about that today. However, we can update the walls here to provide us an entrance out into the outer area. And I'm thinking right here might be a good spot to do so. Either that, or we might have a better option if we made an entrance from the Grand Rotunda right here, because we could have an entrance to this side, like right here, and then we could have an entrance to the other side, the other outer district, right here on the opposite side, except for that wouldn't work, would it? No. Actually, I guess entrance from the Grand Rotunda here probably wouldn't matter for this side, because we can access this outer district from both the Waterside District and from the Farm District, and we have plenty of entrances in and out. I guess this side over here is the only major issue. Y'all just gotta forgive me. I'm kind of flying by the seat of my pants here. I didn't do a whole lot of planning before I began this episode. Look at that. So while I was considering, I decided to, have a look over here in the pumpkin farm. I noticed we weren't getting any bone meal. That's because this whole thing was clogged up with eggs. So I think what we're probably going to need to do is make an update to the pumpkin farm to make sure chickens can't get in here and clog up my composter, so that way it doesn't stop my bone meal production. I think that's going to be our first order of business. Oh, and we have pumpkins coming in from one of these sides. So we should, since the farm is filled up, the storage is filled up, we should be getting pumpkins going through here. We are once more producing bone meal. Okay. So, I mean, what do we think as far as this goes? Just like bigger fences? I mean, it's not the most exciting thing in the world, but I think bigger fences. Yeah. All right, decisions have been made. We are going to put a door right here. In addition to that, though, we are also going to put a door right here. Now, we do have some issues with the door that's going to be over here because, as you can see, as of right now, there's no way to really access the door that would be right here. So we're going to have to clear out some of this space, and I was thinking we could also make a path that leads up to this area. However, I realized that we don't have enough room to do so, and yes, we will update the fences. That is going to be part of this as well. And of course, it begins raining. Typical. But since there's no way to make a walking path, what we're going to have to do to access the door over here is we're probably going to have to go through jumping jack-o'-lanterns, which means we are going to want a bigger entrance, a more comfortable entrance to walk through, and we're going to want to add a second door to the side of jumping jack-o'-lanterns, which shouldn't be too hard to accomplish. And since Jumping Jack isn't here anymore, Jumping Jack decided to wander around and abandon this place, which is fine, because this is automated anyway. We don't really need anybody manning this place. We can go ahead and clear out some of the interior here to make this a little bit more spacious as well as we walk through, going in and out of it, to access the outer district entrance, which will be over here on this side of the building, and where this window once was. That might be a good place to make our door. Easy enough, right? That means that some of these trees back here are obviously going to have to go. A lot of this foliage back here is going to have to go. These fences are going to have to go. And in addition to that, this wall right here, this little section of wall right here where our entrance is going to be, is going to have to go. Now, with regard to the fences surrounding our pumpkin farm, if we're going to update our fences, we're going to update our fences, right? So I'm thinking we're going to add some spruce logs in here to give ourselves some fence posts. And in between those, I do have to figure out how far apart we're going to space these before we can talk about what's going to go in between those. We can add some oak fences in here, which offers us a little bit more variety in the block palette surrounding the farm, and it still goes with the whole aesthetic of the farm district. Kind of like that. I think I figured out why Jumping Jack ran off. You can hear it right now. We got the sounds of the farm going off constantly. It's very noisy in this area. But in addition to that, we also got moans and groans from some neighbors around here somewhere, either within the city walls or beneath the city. Who can really tell at this point? I guess I could have left that leaf in there. That would just get converted to bone meal. That's not a big deal. So we'll talk about that far entrance in a little bit. We'll talk about this area in a little bit. Right now, though, we're just going to focus on what we've been discussing, which is this area right here. I think at this point, we are ready to do what we said we were going to do to it. So let's go ahead and call the drone on over here, put on a little bit of music, and get to work. Welcome back, everybody. At this point, we do have an update to the farm district, and let's go ahead and make our way over here as night begins to fall to have a look at jumping jack-o'-lanterns as dusk begins to approach. I did add some more lanterns to jumping jack-o'-lanterns, so that way it stands out a little bit more at nighttime. I guess aside from that, though, it doesn't really look too different from how it did look before, so we can go ahead and actually see the changes. First up being the updated fences surrounding the pumpkin farm here. These are all much higher, which should hopefully prevent any animals from getting into the farm and leaving us little presents that we don't want or need. Same thing applies to this side. We have pretty much a 1.5 tall jump to get into the farm, though something might be able to cross here, so we'll get rid of this. And then, as far as the interior of jumping jack-o'-lanterns goes, I cleared out a lot of jumping jack's clutter in here. He was kind of a hoarder. I replaced his chest right here with a barrel to better hide the hopper that's behind there. It's just a little bit more comfortable to walk around in. Not too much to say about it. If we make our way out here, you can see that we've added a little porch area to this that leads us out to the wall right here, our entrance to the outer district. And we will eventually add some stuff out here as well. Now, as far as our Grand Rotunda entrance into this district goes, we're just going to pop a hole in this wall right here, and this should be pretty much at the, I know it's rounded, but at the corner of the Grand Rotunda, so it should be easy enough to situate a door right here if I can actually get through. We should be able to frame this, yeah, very nicely in this little area right here. Now, as far as how this entrance right here is going to look, it's going to look very similar to these entrances, these other entrances in the Grand Rotunda, because we want that cohesion, right? And also because they're right here and really easy to reference. Now, we already discussed the torch flowers and the pitcher plants that are going to be out here, but there's also this to consider. This is going to be one of our little beacon power plants here in Wolfinia. Basically, we already have the design for that set over here. We have our little beacon power tower over here in the Waterside district, and we're going to place these power towers all throughout Wolfinia, replacing our fountains right here, old beacon fountains. Basically, these are little mini power plants that distribute the beacon buffs throughout all of the city. And since they are basically an update to our old beacon fountains, I think we can probably afford to get some of these in today. Now, as far as the beacon fountains we're going to be replacing today, we have this one here at the Grand Rotunda. We have a couple of them over here in the farm district. There's one right there. Here is the, owie. Here is the other one right here. We have some in the business district, and if we're doing these, we might as well do some along the outer districts as well, even though those are technically new. But there are some beacons we're not going to touch right now, including these ones over here on top of the crown. They might be a different design. The beacons over here at Wolfen's Laboratory and the beacons over here on these platforms might also be a different design. We'll figure that out at some later date. Oh my goodness, I just opened this up and we already got villagers venturing out here, which is ridiculous. You can't be out here. This is a construction area. Authorized personnel only. And as we venture beneath the walls of the Grand Rotunda, please do not venture into the walls of the Grand Rotunda, because I will not hesitate to seal you in here, right? I wouldn't really seal him in here. That's just a threat to try to get him to leave. Okay. All right, so now that we've got that settled, we know what we're going to be doing. We should probably go ahead and get to it. So at this point, let's go ahead and call the drone on over here, put on a little bit of music, and get to work. Welcome back, everybody. At this point, we do have more of the power towers in around Wolfinia. We got some work done. I don't know why we can't see the beacon beams emanating from this power tower, but they are there, I promise you that. There we go. Now, as we enter the Grand Rotunda, first of all, we have our entrance into the outer district of Wolfinia from the Grand Rotunda. You guys have already seen this plenty today, so we don't really need to look at that anymore. We also have our sheep right here, our wall sheep that I evacuated from inside the wall. Going down into the bottom area, we have our power tower down here. Now, the power tower is kind of cramped in this area. I might rework this or rework the Grand Rotunda itself to accommodate it better. We'll talk about that later, though. We have other power towers in around Wolfinia, including these ones here in the business district. Speaking of, I did some unexpected work here in the business district. I noticed we had a lot of villagers and golems crammed in up here, so I added a little stairway so that way they could egress from this area a little bit easier, though they seem to want to continue to remain up here. I guess that's fine, but now they have the option instead of backtracking throughout the entirety of the farming operations office. We have Rosie over there, Rosie who should be at work but isn't at the moment. Moving on to the Rotunda, the old Rotunda, we have another power tower in here that you can see peeking up from above the balcony here. I think it definitely makes this area look more interesting, maybe not necessarily better, but definitely more interesting. But Mr. Wolfens wants these in here, and you know what? We're not interested in scenic views, right? Nah, here in Wolfinia, we're all about the science and discovery and buffs and power. Ow. Now, there are still some builds around Wolfinia that I do want to update that I didn't get around to today. Hopefully we can schedule another one of these videos fairly soon because I do enjoy going back over the old stuff, and let's face it, a lot of it needs updating. And as we update, I will have to take into consideration how the villagers like to congregate in areas where they shouldn't be congregating. They always seem to find themselves into these little inescapable alcoves. And I will have to eliminate these because the city looks empty when they all get stuck in one spot. Y'all need to get out of here. You know this isn't a place for you. You have like a whole district over here for you. Get out! Anyway, I think that's where we're going to have to call it for today, guys. So, I hope you enjoyed this episode. If you did, please be sure to hit that little thumbs up button. That would mean a whole lot to me. And if you want to see more of Wolfinia, please remember to subscribe. But as always, I just want to thank you guys for hanging out with me today. I deeply appreciate it. And until next time, I hope you enjoyed your stay here in Wolfinia. I will see you guys later.